Welcome back to the Imaginarium channel, a place where we kind of take ordinary things and turn them into something extraordinary. If you're the kind of person who likes to go on a journey and leave the mundane behind, well, hit that subscribe button and get ready. We've got a story for you today that'll keep you on the edge of your seat, and when it's all over, you might even end up questioning everything you thought you knew. It all starts in a courtroom. You know that low hum of anticipation, right? Well, there's a young man, we'll call him Marcus, standing in front of the judge. And he's just kind of there, lost in a sea of faces, waiting for his turn. But there's something in his eyes, a haunted look, as he scans the gallery, hoping to see a friendly face, someone, anyone, who could offer a sliver of support in this cold and unforgiving place. But there's no one. Now enters David, a young, ambitious lawyer, hungry for success. He graduated at the top of his class from Georgetown Law, but instead of going for the big money at a fancy firm, he chose the trenches of the public defender's office.
He's driven, you see, and he sees this as his proving ground, the first step to building his own legal empire. So David gets assigned to Marcus's case. And let me tell you, their first meeting is, well, less than inspiring. Imagine a sterile prison visiting room, that thick plexiglass barrier separating them. David is completely taken aback when he learns what Marcus is accused of: a brutal stabbing. A local drug dealer, we'll call him Snake, is dead. 6 stab wounds. But here's the real head-scratcher. There's no motive. Marcus is a closed book, offering no explanations, no nothing, leaving David with a mountain of questions and no answers. So David, determined to crack this case wide open, digs into Marcus's past. And that's when he discovers that before his arrest, Marcus had been battling addiction. But here's the twist. He wasn't at just any rehab facility. He was at the Sanctuary. This place is known for its, well, let's just say unorthodox methods and a ridiculously high success rate. What's their secret, right? Well, it's a strict regimen. Discipline, intense therapy, the whole 9 yards. And David finds out that during his 115 days there, Marcus was a model patient.
Clean, committed, showing incredible progress. It just doesn't add up. So David decides to pay a visit to the Sanctuary himself, hoping to find some clues. He meets the head counselor, Gabriel. Gabriel is a reformed addict himself, a man who commands respect with every word. And when David brings up the accusations against Marcus, Gabriel is skeptical. He describes Marcus as timid, almost fragile, someone who wouldn't hurt a fly, let alone brutally stab someone. David leaves the Sanctuary more confused than ever. How could this seemingly harmless guy transform into a cold-blooded killer? Something's not right. There's a piece of the puzzle missing, something lurking beneath the surface. And just when things couldn't get any more complicated, a mysterious figure enters the picture. His name is Edward, and he approaches David with an offer that's hard to refuse. Edward claims to represent the company behind Renewal, a revolutionary new drug treatment. And guess what? It was secretly tested at the Sanctuary. But there's a catch. Renewal, while promising these miraculous results, has a dark side. In a small percentage of patients, it triggers this uncontrollable urge to kill. Marcus, and potentially countless others, are ticking time bombs. Edward, with this chillingly calm demeanor, lays out his proposition. He offers David a staggering amount of money to handle settlements for the families of Renewal victims. It's a deal with the devil, a chance to secure unimaginable wealth. But at what cost? He'd be burying the truth, becoming complicit in a cover-up with potentially devastating consequences. David finds himself at a crossroads, torn between his ambition and his conscience. The allure of wealth is strong, the promise of a life free from financial constraints, the freedom to pursue his dreams. But the question is, how much is he willing to sacrifice? And what will be the cost? Ambition wins. David takes the deal, and almost overnight his life does a complete 180. He opens his own firm, a really sleek, modern space that just streams success. He hires the best lawyers money can buy and indulges in, well, everything that comes with wealth. Luxury cars, exotic vacations, designer suits, you name it. But behind this facade of success, there's this darkness lingering. The faces of those Renewal victims, they haunt his dreams. It's a constant reminder of the price he's paid for his fortune. He tries, really tries, to bury his guilt under all the expensive distractions. But the moral weight of his decision, it's just too heavy. He sees the news reports, the stories of unexplained violence, and he can't help but wonder, is it Renewal? Is it happening again? He sees a grieving family on TV, and it just hits him, that feeling of complicity, that he's somehow responsible for their pain. He's trapped, you see, in this gilded cage of his own making, his conscience a prisoner of his ambition. One night at this really swanky legal gala, surrounded by all his peers, David feels this pang of remorse. He decides, you know what, I'm going to try and warn a fellow lawyer about a similar drug, something he'd heard whispers about. Maybe, just maybe, he can atone for his silence, make a small difference, right? But his warning falls on deaf ears. The other lawyer just dismisses him, scoffs at the idea that a pharmaceutical company could be involved in something so nefarious. And that's when it hits David, the system is rigged. The truth is a dangerous commodity. As David sinks deeper into this web of deceit, his carefully constructed life starts to crumble. The authorities, they get wind of something suspicious, and they launch an investigation into his dealings. And the press, well, they're always hungry for a scandal, right? They get a whiff of the story, and they descend like a pack of wolves, this relentless pursuit threatening to expose everything. His image, his reputation, his career, it all hangs in the balance. Clients, the ones who were once drawn to his success, they start to flee, afraid to be associated with a potentially tainted lawyer. His spending habits, all those lavish expenses, they catch up to him, and he finds himself drowning in debt. The walls are closing in, and David's about to learn that the price of his silence is far higher than he ever imagined. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so David made a bad call, but what's the bigger picture here? Well, this is where things get really interesting. Remember the sanctuary, that rehab facility with the suspiciously high success rate? Well, it turns out their methods weren't just unorthodox, they were dangerous. Renewal, the drug at the heart of all this, it wasn't just some rogue experiment. It was the brainchild of a powerful pharmaceutical company, a company that saw dollar signs in the desperation of addicts, people desperate for a quick fix. They exploited vulnerable people, preying on their desire for a fresh start, and all for the sake of profit. And the truly disturbing part, this wasn't an isolated incident. David's investigation leads him to this network of clandestine clinics and corrupt officials, all complicit in this scheme. The reach of this conspiracy, it goes way beyond the sanctuary, weaving its way through the corridors of power, silencing anyone who dared to speak out against it. But amidst all this darkness, there are glimmers of hope. David, despite his mistakes, he still has some humanity left in him. He's not completely lost to the allure of wealth and power. He realizes he has the knowledge, the skills, and maybe even the responsibility to expose this conspiracy and bring those responsible to justice. It's a dangerous path, one that could cost him everything, but the stakes are just too high to ignore. David knows he can't do this alone, though. He needs allies, people who believe in the truth, people willing to fight for what's right no matter what. So he starts by reaching out to this jaded journalist, a woman who spent her career chasing stories that others wouldn't touch. She's skeptical at first, of course, but David's desperation, his genuine desire to make amends, it convinces her that there's more to this story than meets the eye. Next, he seeks out a disillusioned scientist, a man who once worked for the pharmaceutical company behind Renewal. This guy, he's racked with guilt over his role in developing the drug, haunted by the knowledge of its devastating side effects. He's hesitant to get involved. Naturally, he's afraid of the repercussions. But David's plea for help, his willingness to put himself on the line, it reignites a spark of conscience within him. And finally, David finds an unlikely ally in this sympathetic law enforcement officer, a man who's seen firsthand the devastating impact of the drug trade. He's torn between his duty to uphold the law and his desire to see justice served. But David's story, his firsthand account of the conspiracy, it opens his eyes to the corruption that's infiltrated the very system he's sworn to protect. With this unlikely trio assembled, David embarks on this perilous quest to gather evidence, expose the truth, and bring down the powerful forces behind Renewal. It's a David versus Goliath battle, a fight against the system that's designed to protect the wealthy and silence anyone who threatens their power. The stakes are incredibly high, the risks immense, but David and his allies are determined to fight for justice, even if it means risking everything. And you might be wondering, what about Marcus, the young man whose case started this whole chain of events? Well, he becomes a symbol, a rallying cry for David and his allies. His story, the injustice he faced, it fuels their determination to fight, to make sure that others don't suffer the same fate. The fight for justice is long and arduous. David and his allies face setbacks, encounter roadblocks, and navigate this treacherous landscape of deception and danger. But they persevere, driven by their belief in the truth and their desire to right the wrongs that have been committed. Their investigation takes them deep into the underbelly of the pharmaceutical industry, uncovering a web of deceit that stretches far beyond Renewal. They uncover evidence of falsified research data, suppress reports of adverse effects, and a systematic campaign to silence whistleblowers. They find themselves up against powerful lawyers, PR firms, even government officials, all determined to protect the interests of the corporation behind this deadly scheme. But David and his allies refuse to be intimidated. They use their collective skills and resources to expose the truth, one piece of evidence at a time. The journalist publishes a series of scathing articles that capture the attention of the public, shining a light on the dark underbelly of the pharmaceutical industry. The scientist comes forward with his story, providing crucial insider information about the development and testing of Renewal. And the law enforcement officer, using his position within the system, launches a formal investigation into the corporation behind the drug. The pressure mounts, the media frenzy intensifies, and the corporation finds itself on the defensive. Their carefully constructed facade begins to crumble, and the truth, like a crack in a dam, threatens to unleash a torrent of consequences. And the climax of this whole thing, it all comes down to a courtroom. Packed, I mean packed, with journalists, spectators, legal teams from both sides, you name it. You could just cut the tension with a knife, as David, armed with all this evidence and the unwavering support of his allies, presents his case against this pharmaceutical giant. He lays it all out there, their reckless pursuit of profit, their blatant disregard for human life, their systematic efforts to cover up the deadly truth about renewal. But the defense team, oh man, they're not giving up without a fight. These are seasoned lawyers, the kind who know how to manipulate the system, and they're fighting tooth and nail to discredit David and his evidence. They try to paint him as this disgruntled former employee out for revenge, a man driven by personal gain, not justice. They pull out all the stops, character assassination, legal technicalities, even thinly veiled threats, anything to silence him and protect their client. But David, he doesn't flinch. He's come too far, sacrificed too much to let them win. He stands his ground, his voice strong and steady as he exposes their lies, dismantles their arguments, and presents this compelling case for justice. He calls witness after witness, victims of renewal, former employees of the corporation, even the scientists who helped develop the drug. Each testimony adds another layer of truth to the narrative, building this undeniable picture of what really happened. And the jury, well, they're faced with this mountain of evidence, these powerful stories from those affected by renewal. They deliberate for days, the weight of their decision immense, knowing that the fate of countless lives hangs in the balance, and finally they come back with a verdict, guilty on all counts. You can hear a pin drop in that courtroom as the news spreads like wildfire across the country. It's a huge victory, a testament to the power of truth, the courage of those who dared to stand up to injustice. This corporation, this giant that seemed untouchable, is held accountable for its actions. Their empire of deceit crumbles under the weight of their own greed. But this victory, it's bittersweet. The damage done by renewal is irreparable. Lives lost, families shattered, communities torn apart. The ripple effects of this conspiracy will be felt for years to come. David, exhausted but vindicated, he walks out of that courtroom a changed man. He's lost his fortune, his reputation, his career, but he's gained something far more valuable, a sense of purpose. He knows he made a difference. He exposed the truth, brought justice to those who were wronged, and prevented countless others from suffering the same fate. He goes back to the sanctuary, the place where it all began. But this time, he's not a lawyer looking for answers. He's a man seeking redemption. He offers his help, his legal expertise, his understanding of addiction to the very people he once sought to exploit. He works tirelessly to reform the facility, putting in new safety protocols, advocating for ethical treatment, making sure no one else falls victim to the lure of a quick fix. And what about Marcus? Well, his case is reopened, the charges against him dropped in light of all the evidence that came out during the trial. He's finally free, exonerated, given a chance to rebuild his life. But the scars of his ordeal, they run deep. He's dealing with the trauma, the injustice, the knowledge that his addiction was used against him. David sees Marcus's pain, recognizes a reflection of his own struggles in his eyes. He reaches out, offers support, guidance, a shared understanding of the long road to recovery. He helps Marcus find a new rehab facility, one that focuses on real healing, individualized care. He becomes a mentor, a friend, a source of strength as Marcus navigates the challenges of staying sober and putting his life back together. The story of David, Marcus, and this whole renewal conspiracy, it's a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition, corporate greed, and those systemic forces that protect the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable. It highlights the importance of speaking truth to power, fighting for justice, holding those responsible accountable. But it's also a story of hope, of redemption, of second chances. It shows that even when the odds are stacked against you, the truth can win out. Those who have been wronged can find healing and justice. It reminds us that we all have the power to make a difference, to fight for what's right, to use our voices to stand up for those who can't speak for themselves. And that's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. I hope you found this exploration thought-provoking, maybe even a little inspiring. Remember, knowledge is power, and by sharing these stories, well, I hope it empowers you to question, to challenge, to make informed decisions in your own lives. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share it with your friends. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the depths of the Imaginarium channel.